As a longtime foreign correspondent, I've worked in lots of places, but nowhere as important to the world as China. I'm Jane Perlez, former Beijing bureau chief for the New York Times. Join me on my new podcast, Face Off, US versus China, where I'll take you behind the scenes in the tumultuous US-China relationship. Find Face Off wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Bytes of Health, where we hope to take a bite out of your parent worries each day with sound advice and guidance. Every morning, we'll answer a commonly asked question that pediatricians regularly receive in 5 minutes or less. I'm Dr. Jess Steier, a public health scientist, and today I'm joined by no one. That's right. I'm going to be solo and share my expertise with you as a public health scientist. Today, we're going to talk about the Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen list. The clock is ticking, so let's get to it. So scientists and health experts really want you to know that just because there are pesticide residues on your food does not mean it's harmful. Remember, both conventionally and organically grown produce are perfectly safe to eat, and both are grown with pesticides, by the way, and they're important for good health. In fact, Americans in particular should be eating more fruits and veggies to lower the risk of serious diseases. The idea that minuscule amounts of anything are automatically dangerous is a misconception. Remember, the dose makes the poison. Scientists use the dose-response relationship to understand safety. And every substance on Earth, even essentials like water, have a level where it can cause no harm, or a level where it can cause harm. Regulatory agencies like the USDA, with its pesticide data program, make sure pesticide residues on food are far below that no effect level. But groups like the Environmental Working Group, or the EWG, release lists like the Dirty Dozen, and this scares consumers away from conventional produce. But their rankings are misleading because they don't consider dosage or establish safety limits. And we don't want to let fear-mongering prevent you or your kiddos from enjoying the health benefits of fruits and veggies. So let's talk through some of the reasons why you might not get too scared away from the EWG's Dirty Dozen list. So again, please remember that the mere presence of a pesticide does not necessarily equate to risk. The USDA's pesticide data program detects residues at levels far lower than those that are considered health risks. It's also important to note that the EWG's methodology is flawed. It focuses on the number of different pesticide residues found, rather than the actual amount of those residues. This approach ignores the varying levels of toxicity among pesticides and does not account for safety limits set forth by the EPA. Also, you might have seen some studies talking about how there were trace amounts of pesticides detected in urine. This should not automatically scare you. The fact that our bodies are excreting pesticides in our urine means that they're doing what they should be doing. They're excreting those pesticides from our body. The list also does not distinguish between different pesticides. The authors of the list freely admit that the list does not assess actual risk or likelihood of exposure, nor do they apply basic tenets of toxicology. They weigh all pesticides equally and do not factor in levels deemed acceptable by the EPA. It's also completely biased towards organic produce. And look, if you like organic produce, knock yourself out. But organic produce typically comes at a higher price point. And the fact is that organic produce is not inherently safer for the environment, safer for our health, or more nutritional. The list also cherry picks data from poorly designed studies that support their claims while ignoring decades of credible research and scientific consensus on the safety of pesticides on our produce. It's unfortunate that the Dirty Dozen list creates fear around consumption of produce rather than encouraging people to eat more produce, regardless of how it's grown. Please remember, the dose makes the poison. Even eating hundreds or thousands of servings of produce with the highest recorded pesticide residue levels would still fall below the levels with no adverse health effects. Now, the Clean 15 list is another list that they put out, and it further demonstrates flawed methodology. While mainly having higher serving sizes, some of the serving sizes of commodities on the Clean 15 list are less than the commodities on the Dirty Dozen list. This shows that the amount of residue is not a good estimate of risk. And remember, if you have any concerns at all, just wash your produce. You can reduce and often eliminate pesticide residue altogether, if they're even present on your produce, by simply washing with cold or warm water. You can also use a vinegar solution, but it's really not necessary. Well, we hope you learned something today, and we have lots more to share. Remember, you can get your Bite of Health every day, Monday through Friday. If you like what you've heard here, let us know. Leave us a review on Apple and be sure to tell your friends. Remember, there is no single or best way to parent. Parenting is a journey, and we are all just doing our very best. We wish you happy, healthy, and stress-free parenting.
If you like this podcast, can we recommend another one? It's called Big Picture Science. You can hear it wherever you get your podcasts, and its name tells part of the story. The big picture questions and the most interesting research in science.
Seth and I are the hosts. Seth is a scientist. I am Molly, and I'm a science journalist. And we talk to people smarter than us, and we have fun along the way. The show is called Big Picture Science, and as Seth said, you can hear it wherever you get your podcasts.